Good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here. Hey, I want to ask two questions to kind of get a feel for the audience and where we're going today. The first question is, by a show of hands, how many of you can think of something you could do in the next 2 weeks that would make your life worse? Can I see your hands? Yeah. I don't recommend you do it, but you can think of something, right? Okay. On the other hand, how many of you can think of something in the next 2 weeks that you could do that would make your life better? Fewer hands. That kind of has me worried about the group, but that's okay. That's so important because you know what you just said? You just said that the choice is yours. And that is critical to knowing how to be successful and building the best you that you can do. So many times we like to think about, oh, if I didn't have this family member, or if I didn't have this boss, or it's my team that's creating all this tension and stress in my life. And we forget that, you know what? We have a choice. We have choices in our life. I love what Joe Sabas says. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. That's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to share with you some choices, some things that you can do, some options that you have that would help you in making your life be the best that it can be. I have a friend, his name is John, and John travels a lot for business. I mean, he's on the road every single week. And so John has it down now. He knows exactly what time to get to the airport so that there's no waiting around in the gate. And he's the last person on the plane, and that's the way he likes it. One day he was going from New York to Boston, and I don't know what happened, but the traffic was lighter than usual, and he found just the right parking space, and he whizzed through TSA, and he found himself in the very unusual position of being able to just stroll to his gate instead of run to his gate. And he walked by one of those stores that sells water bottles and newspapers and things, and in front of it was this old-timey scale. And so he got up on there, and it said, for $1, get your weight and a fortune. And he thought, why not? So he put $1 in, he stepped up on the scale, and he heard the little printer printed out, and it was zzz. He picked it up, it says, your name is John Jones. How did you know that? You weigh 188 pounds, you're here to catch the 2:20 to Boston. Well, he was amazed. How could it know his name and what he was doing there? So he got off the scale, and went and looked around behind it because he figured he was being punked, and there was a camera there or a computer was there or something, but there wasn't anything. So he steps back to think about it for a minute and pulls out of his carry-on bag his ball cap and his sunglasses, and he walks back up, he puts $1 in, and bzzz, your name is still John Jones. You still weigh 188 pounds, and you're still here to catch the 2:20 to Boston. He is really curious now how this scale can know that. So he goes to the bathroom, picks up all his luggage, goes to the bathroom, gets his garment bag, unzips his garment bag, gets out his freshly laundered, starched white shirt, puts on his dark black suit, puts on his red power tie, puts on his black wingtip shoes. I mean, he looks nothing like his traveling self. And he walks back out there, and he puts $1 in, and bzzz, your name is still John Jones. You still weigh 188 pounds, but you just missed the 2:20 to Boston. And isn't that true? We get so distracted by all the things in our lives that we forget that we have choices and that we have options. So I want to share with you today some information that hopefully will give you some new ideas and some new choices. Mr. Ziglar said, success and happiness are not matters of chance, but choice. Zig Ziglar is the founder and the author of this philosophy and information I'm going to share with you. I'm curious, how many of you have ever heard of Zig Ziglar? Okay, some of you had. He is known as America's motivator. He authored 33 books. He passed away in 2012, and yet his information and his philosophy have lived on. And I'm so proud to be a Ziglar Legacy Certified Speaker that I can bring this information to you. So it's not chance that makes us successful, it is choices that we make. He created a graphic for that. He created what he calls the stairway to success. When he traveled around, he would ask people, what's important to you? What does success mean to you? What do you want out of your life? And he started to hear the same things over and over again. And he found out in the tomorrows of their lives, people want happiness, health, prosperous. They want to be more secure. They want to have friends. They want to have peace of mind. They want to have great family relationships. And they want to have hope. And so he started thinking, how can I help people get those things in the tomorrows of their lives? But what does it say? What does the sign say on the elevator? That's right, out of order. Because there is no quick way for long-lasting success. You probably can think of an example right now of somebody who rose to fame real quickly, rose to success really quickly, and had their 15 minutes of fame, and then you never heard from them again. That's not what I want for you. What I want for you is to have long-lasting success in your life and in your business life and in your family life. So we need to understand, how do we build this stairway? First of all, it needs to be built on a very solid foundation. I don't know if you've ever been to a big city when they were building a skyscraper, but if you have, you'll know that the first thing they do is they build a really big hole so they can build that tall skyscraper. It's a lot like life. We need to build our life on a foundation of character, honesty, loyalty, integrity, love, and faith. Because here's what happens. When you are going along in life and you hit a speed bump or an obstacle, now, I didn't say if, I said when you hit a speed bump or an obstacle and it brings you down flat to your back, if you fall on your foundation, you can just dust yourself off and get up and start again. But if you don't have a real strong foundation, then you're going to fall into the basement, and it takes so much energy and effort to crawl and scratch yourself out of that basement. So we want to have a very strong foundation, and then we want to have the steps, the choices that we can make to get to those tomorrows in our life. The first step is a step of self-image. How you see yourself is so important to your success. The story goes that there was a balloon salesman in Central Park in New York City, and he was selling on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. He was selling balloons, and when business would go down, he would let a balloon up, and it would fly into the sky, and the kids would see it, and they'd run over and make their parents buy them a balloon. There's a little kid playing in the playground, and so all afternoon he would see a blue balloon go up. A couple hours later, a yellow balloon would go up. A couple hours later, a red balloon would go up. And about that point, he came over and he tugged on the balloon salesman's pant leg, and he said, "Sir, if you let a black balloon go, what will happen?" And the salesman said, "Well, it will go up. It's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside that makes that balloon go up." And that's true for you and me too. It's not what's on, it's what's inside of you that counts. It's not what you do, but it's who you are. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as someone who is able to get all the good things in life? I have some great news for you. You have everything that is necessary for you to be as successful as you want to be. Right now, you already possess all the talents, gifts, skills, qualities that are necessary for you to be successful. It's a matter of sometimes developing those. It's a matter of pulling them out. It's a matter of recognizing our potential. We need to look inside of us and see what we bring to the table, what we can do that will make us successful. I suggest one of the things that you do is you create a victory list. A victory list is where you list all the small and big victories that you've had in your life. Now, this is not for anybody else to see. Some people do this on a daily basis. At the end of every day, they write down some victory that they had that day. And then when you have one of those days, I mean, come on, you understand, we all have one of those days every once in a while. And we can't think of anything we've ever done that has any value at all. That's when you bring that victory list out and you look at it and you say, "Oh yeah, I did that. And, oh yeah, I did that. And, oh yeah, I did that." And it builds a confidence in you that you start to recognize your potential. I also highly recommend that you use adult language. Yeah, words like commitment, courage, responsibility, friendship. Words that adults use who know how to make it and make it happen. I recommend you use 4-letter words. Love, time, hope. Those are the words that we need to fill our brain with so that we understand our potential and where we can go with that. Once we have that ready, then we know you can go where you are. Once we have that, we know that you can go where you are and what you are because of what goes into your mind. And you can change what you are and where you are by changing what goes into your mind. I learned this at a very early age, in my early 20s, when I started to listen to Mr. Ziegler, and that was revolutionary to me. He calls it Automobile University. What are you doing to create and build yourself from home to work? What are you listening to? What are you putting into your mind so that you are changing who you are and where you are, getting better and better and better? There are hundreds, thousands of podcasts that you can download for free that have great information. There's hundreds, thousands of motivational educational recordings that you can invest in yourself and listen to make you better as you're going from home to work. What are you doing to make yourself better as you go from work to home? Are you bringing all the stress and tension from work into your family? They don't deserve that. They deserve the best you that you can be. So what are you doing between work and home? What are you putting into your mind to help you become the best you that you can be? I can recommend one podcast. It's called The Ziglar Show. It's inspirational, it's motivational, it's easy and fun to listen to. Go check it out on iTunes. I think you'll like it. But what happens when failure comes along? If you're willing to take some choices and make some risks, you're going to have some failure. But here's what you have to remember, that failure is an event, not a person. When we fail, we can say, I'm not the loser, but the process I used didn't work. So what can I change in there in that process, and I can step up and do it again? Because failure is an event. It's not a person. You are not a failure. You have everything necessary in your life to go where you want to go, but you have to make those choices. The next step up the stairway to success is relationships. Relationships are like an echo, because what you send out is what you'll get back. So the question you have to ask yourself is, where am I having healthy, good relationships? What am I sending out? What am I getting back? Where am I having unhealthy relationships? What am I doing there? Where do I need to cut that relationship off? Because everything you do revolves around relationships. You are not a silo at work. You have coworkers and team members. You are not a silo in your social life. You have friends and a support system. You are not a silo in your family life. You have family members who care about you and want the best for you. So what are you doing to create those great, healthy, winning relationships? Well, one of the things you can ask yourself is, how am I seeing all these people? How do I see my coworkers? How do I see my family? Because the way you treat people is the way that you see them. And so one of the choices you can make is choose how you see the others that you work with, the relationships that you're in. Andrew Carnegie taught us a great lesson with that. Andrew Carnegie was a wonderful philanthropist. He was an inventor. He was very rich. He was an industrialist. And a newspaper reporter came to interview Andrew Carnegie, and he asked him, Mr. Carnegie, how did you get all these millionaires to work for you? Because at the time, $1 million was a lot of money, and he had several millionaires who worked for him. And Mr. Carnegie said, well, they weren't millionaires when they came to work for me. I developed them into millionaires. The reporter's eyes got really big because he knew he was onto a great story. And he said, how do you develop millionaires? And Mr. Carnegie gave us a valuable lesson, and that is, you work with people like you mine for gold. When you're mining for gold, you have to move a ton of dirt, but you don't focus on all the dirt you're moving. You're looking for that little vein of gold. When you find that vein of gold, you mine that gold. He said, when I work with people, sometimes I have to move a ton of dirt to get to their strengths, what they do well, and then I develop those and help them to be the best you that they can be. So that's really what I want you to do. I want you to think about, as I look around at people, what am I looking for? Am I looking for their flaws and nitpicking them, or am I looking for their good and helping them to be the best version of themselves? Because relationships are incredibly important to you as you do your relationships are incredibly important to you as you do your life and the success that you want in your life. And then the next step is goals. Goals are important. I love what Mr. Ziglar said. He said, you gotta have goals. Goals give us a purpose. They give us a destiny. They give us a why. Goals release power. I mean, how can you hit a target that you can't even see? John Henry Fabre was a French naturalist, and he studied, of all things, processionary caterpillars. And they were called that because they follow each other in a little procession. So he lined them up around a flower pot, and he started to observe their behavior. And they went round and round and round and round. And several hours later, he put pine needles in the middle of that flower pot, because that is what processionary caterpillars eat. And they continued to go round and round round and round. And within 24 hours, they were all dead, with food just inches away from them, because they were so fixated on doing just what the other caterpillar did in front of them. We call those people wandering generalities. I don't know how I got here. I just kind of got here. Circumstances brought me here. The wind brought me here. I'm just wandering through life. And we don't want to do that. We want to be meaningful specifics. We want to know, what is our goal? Where are we going? What is our destiny? What is our purpose? And we will work towards that purpose. Think about this. The astronauts didn't get to the moon because they just went out for a ride in a rocket. They didn't get out there by just wandering around. Jordan Spieth didn't become the #1 pro golfer right now by going out and playing a round of golf once every while. No, hours of practice and practice and practice before he was able to get on the pro circuit. Now, I know he's young, but still hours and hours of practice went into that. Sir Edmund Hillary was the first person to ever climb Mount Everest without using oxygen, using an oxygen tank. He didn't get there because he went for a stroll or decided to go on a little hike. He got there because he had goals. He had work on those goals, and he got through those goals, and he went towards his destiny, towards his purpose. You gotta have goals. Hey, you know what? I'm teaching a workshop in about 6 weeks, and I'm going to teach you a goal-setting process that if you will take those steps and work on them, the process that I have, that I can almost guarantee you that you will reach your goals if you're willing to do the work. I don't have time to do it here, but if you'd be interested in knowing what that process is, I'll tell you at my 6 weeks Building the Best You workshop. What's the next step up the stairs? It's attitude. Now we're talking about, how do you feel? How do you feel about things? What attitude do you bring to your life? Sometimes we need a checkup from the neck up to prevent hardening of the attitudes, which is caused by stinking thinking. Don't you think? Sometimes you just got to say, whoa, what am I doing? It's a difference between reacting to situations and responding to situations. Let's say you were really sick and you went to the doctor and he gave you some medicine and he said, come back in 24 hours. I really want to make sure that we're on the right track. If you come back in 24 hours and he says, oh, you had a reaction to that medicine, that doesn't sound good. But if he says, oh, great, you're responding well to the medicine, keep going, that sounds good. In life, if we react to everything just without thinking, then we're going to have some problems. And guess what? Attitudes are contagious. And so if you have a bad attitude, you can share that with other people. Attitudes are contagious. If you have a positive attitude and learn how to respond, then you can share that with other people. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever had just, regular day, and one of your coworkers asked you to lunch, and they spent the entire lunch complaining about a new policy or about the boss, or if I was in charge, I wouldn't do it that way, and this decision, that decision, the entire lunch. How did you come back to work for the afternoon? That's right. Attitudes are so contagious. So the question is yours worth catching? Sometimes we can get plum disease. Does anybody know what plum disease is? Anybody ever heard of it? Ooh, I got here just in time then. Plum disease is poor, little, old me. We have a pity party. And pity parties are no fun because nobody else wants to come to them and you're all by yourself. That's when our attitudes can go down the hill. So we've got to think about, what choices can I make that I can keep my attitude up? What can I do to look at it in a positive light as opposed to a negative light? And I'm not talking about being a Pollyanna and not being realistic. I'm just saying, how can we be more solution-oriented and problem-conscious than problem-oriented? We want to be solution-oriented. We want to look at things in a way that says, how can we solve them? I see that this is an obstacle. How can I get around it? Not, I see that this is an obstacle. Oh, well, we don't want to do that. That will not make us successful. The next step up is work. The story goes that there was a king that said, I want my people to be successful. The people of my kingdom, I want them to have a happy life. So he called in all his wise men and he said, I want you to write all the wisdom down. I want you to give all the wisdom of the ages and write it down so that people can read it and they can be happy in my kingdom. The wise men left They worked at it for 2 years. Then they proudly brought the king into the library, and there was just volume after volume after volume, row after row after row of books. And they said, we have written it down. In these books contain all the wisdom of the ages. And the king said, this is too many. This is too much. People won't read this. You need to condense it. I mean, give me just the essential things that makes a person wise. So they went back, and a year later they came back very proudly with this huge book, and they said, we've put just the essential wisdom in this book. If people will read this book, they will learn how to be happy. The king said, it's too much. Nobody's going to read that. Come back with one sentence that gives me the wisdom of the ages. Well, they worked and they worked and they worked and they worked, and they came up with it. The wisdom of the ages is there ain't no free lunch. I don't know where we have come up with this idea that I don't have to work for things. There is joy in working and getting the rewards for that. There's to your soul, it helps you as you work for something and then you reap the rewards for that. There's no free lunch. There's nothing worth having that is just given to me. The things that I really want, the good family relations, the peace of mind, the success in my business, those are not just handed to you. You have to work for them. And there is joy in that journey of working. Benjamin Franklin said the U.S. Constitution doesn't guarantee happiness, only the pursuit of it. You have to catch up with it yourself. And that is really true. And I don't know where in our culture we have decided that we need to just sit back and let everybody give things to us. No, there is joy in going out and pursuing that happiness on their own. I don't know, are any of you bamboo tree experts? No? Okay, well then I'll tell you about it. It is said that when you plant a bamboo seed, that you will water it and nurture it, and for the entire first year you will see no growth, no movement in the soil at all. And then you water it and you nurture it, and in the second year you will see no growth, no movement in the soil at all. And then the third year you water it and you nurture it and you'll see no growth. And the fourth year you water it and you nurture it and you'll see no growth. And the fifth year you water it and you nurture it, and sometime during that fifth year, within a 6-week time span, that bamboo will shoot up to 10 feet tall. Now, did it grow 10 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 10 feet in 5 years? Sometimes I have to work and work and work before I see the results, reap the benefits of those rewards. But don't give up. It's so worth it. So how do I keep my motivation? How do I keep going? Well, that's the last step on the stairway, and that's the step of desire. Desire can be thought of as just that little bit extra. In fact, I want everybody right now, would you raise your hand and point at the ceiling as high as you can? Good. Okay. Now just go a little bit higher. Okay. That, you can put your hands down. That's that 1% I'm talking about. If you, I said put your hand as high as you can, and then when I said a little bit higher, everybody could go just a little bit higher. It's that 1%. It's that extra effort. We call it the BAM plan, the block and a mailbox. When Mr. Ziegler decided he wanted to lose weight, he decided the way he was going to do that was start exercising and running. So he put on some old shorts and he put on a t-shirt, he put on some shoes, and he told his wife, I'm going to go out and run around the neighborhood. And she said, not looking like that, you're not. And she took him down to the sporting goods store and she bought him a matching little cutesy little jogging shirt and jogging shorts and the best shoes. And she said, now you may run around the neighborhood. And he went out and he ran for a block. And then he was exhausted. And he came home. But bless his heart, the next day he got up and he ran for a block and a mailbox. B-A-A-M, block and a mailbox. Bam! You have to realize that you can only go so far. Then when you get there, you'll be able to see further. You can go a little bit farther. So you don't have to have all the answers to everything. You don't have to be able to do it all at once. You just have to be willing to go a block, get up the next morning, and go a block in a mailbox. 211 degrees makes a nice cup of hot tea. But when you add 1 more degree and make it boil and you get steam, then you have energy to get things done. That's desire. What is that 1%? What is that one extra thing? What is that one mailbox I can run to? What is my and then some that I can do? What can I do to be just a little bit better today than I was yesterday? What new choice can I make? What can I learn? What can I listen to? Who can I role model after? Who can I get to be a mentor? What are the choices I can make to build the best you? I don't know if you've heard this before, but the bumblebee is not able to fly aerodynamically. Its body is too heavy and its wings are too light. But nobody told the bumblebee. So instead of flapping its wings up and down, it flaps its wings forward and flies all over the place. We call that intelligent ignorance. It's not listening to the naysayers in your life who say, you can't do that. That's too big of a dream. You can't do that. It's listening to your inner voice that says, I can. It's finding support with your friends and your family members who will tell you, you can do this. You don't have to listen to the negative people in your life. You can choose to listen and find the people who tell you you can do it. You can apply that intelligent ignorance. So now I've given you all the steps to success so that your tomorrows can have all the things in life that you want. So the question is, are you going to stair up the steps or step up the stairs? I've gone pretty quickly over this. It's about 20 minutes I've gone through all this information, and you may be saying, well, I don't know enough about all this. I don't know how to set goals. I don't have the process. I'm not sure I know how to create a healthy self-image. I don't know anything about building healthy relationships if you look at the relationships in my life. That's why I'm giving a workshop in about 6 weeks from now. I'm giving a workshop called Building the Best You, and we will go over in detail each one of these steps. Now, because I like the Rotary so much, I want to give away a free seat right now to this workshop. So we got all your business cards. Bring that up and we'll do the drawing. And who won? Andy Costa. Andy, stand up. Yay! All right, I have a question for you. How many of you, when I was putting my hand in there, were thinking, oh, pick me, pick me, pick me? Well, I have a good news for you. I did pick you. Because of the Rotary and all that it does for the community, I wanted to give you guys a break. The full day workshop is $197, but if you're interested in coming and you sign up today, I'll give it to you just for $97. So for $97, you can find out everything you need to know about how to build the best you. But I got to be really honest with you. I got to tell you, this won't work unless you do. You've got to have the discipline to follow through and make those good choices. One last quote from Mr. Ziegler. He says, discipline yourself to do the things you need to do when you need to do them, and the day will come when you'll be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. That's what I wish for you. I wish you have a life full of all the things that you want in your tomorrow, and that you are able to make choices that give you the freedom to do what it is you want to do. Thank you so much for your attention today. Now I want to show you something. So that's the 30-minute speech. Now I want to show you something. So how did I do it? I started out by going to the back office and finding the 30-minute version of the slides and reading through all my notes. And from that, I made notes about what I wanted to remember, what each slide said. Sorry guys. What I wanted to remember what each slide said. And that ended up being about 2, maybe even 3 pages long. And then from that, I condensed it down to just 1 page so I could just glance down and see what I wanted to do. But that takes preparation. I practiced and practiced and practiced. Good luck to you.